Everyone.
Okay, the gentleman who talks about legalizing pot,
Right.
briefly, are you for that?
Yes.
And now an email on the biggest pot headline of late, quote, why did Seattle police conduct a commando-style raid on a man who was legally growing just 2 marijuana plants for medical purposes? It was an insane blunder on the part of the SPD, writes George.
So the issue is that the police officers received a complaint from a neighbor that indicated their belief that a marijuana grow operation was occurring in this apartment. And the police did some investigation, requested a search warrant, received a search warrant, and then executed on the warrant. They broke down the door, and they discovered that the individual inside had a medical marijuana authorization and was growing 2 plants. So under our city policy, the police officer, upon receiving this information, left the plants behind and didn't arrest the person and left. Now, having said that, I'm sure it was deeply unsettling to the resident of the apartment to have the police, break in. Just would be unsettling to you or me to have our home or apartment broken into. So there's a couple of things I want to say. First, just as an immediate response, before there's a request for a search warrant, those requests are going now through one of our deputy chiefs so that we can give a higher level of scrutiny to when to take action. The other thing I would want to say is that, I guess there are 3 things I want to say. The other thing I want to say is that serious marijuana grow operations, large ones, are places where violence occurs. They're targets for half of the home invasion robberies in the city have occurred in places where there's a marijuana grow operation. Somebody else knows there's a grow operation and either wants to steal the money or steal the plants. So they're violent places, and they're understandably a cause of concern to neighbors of these places. And so that's a reason why the police care about them, and we have to figure out what then is the right response. Part of the difficulty is determining what's a medical marijuana grow operation and what's a large-scale operation that may be the scene for violence in the future. In fact, the grower may be the victim of the violence, not the source of the violence. But either way, there's a high potential for violence in these places. So how do you make that decision? And I guess I'll get to my third point, which is we have conflicting laws. In the city of Seattle, enforcement of marijuana laws related to personal use is our lowest enforcement priority. At the state level, medical marijuana is permitted, but still illegal otherwise. And at the federal level, it's completely illegal. And what this means is that, this individual is entitled to smoke marijuana under state law, not under federal law, but under state law. And we don't care to prosecute him locally. That's a low enforcement priority. He can grow some marijuana for himself, but if he didn't grow it, at some point up the chain, somebody's breaking the law to provide him with that marijuana.
But is this what we do? I mean, if we have kind of someone complaining, and I guess with enough cause to get a search warrant, although I don't think that hurdle's too high, do we go and knock on the door? If no one answers, we barge in, or do we try and come back, or is this really the way this should operate?
That's the question. That's the question. So
I mean, even if it was a grow operation.
Sure. So this is why we're elevating it up a level, right? A deputy chief is going to review all of these first and do a review of what is the level of investigation necessary or appropriate before seeking out a search warrant. So your question's the right question, and it's the same question that the department is asking itself. But there's a deeper question too, which is what other types of guidance can we give the police in this muddled legal situation? So I've actually asked the city attorney, King County prosecutor, King County sheriff, Chief Diaz, and Councilmember Nick Licata to talk about, let's start taking a look at these issues of these conflicting laws, and let's see what type of guidance we should be giving our law enforcement as well as the public about where the boundary lines are and what are the appropriate actions.
Okay, back